Welcome to Session 1 of the online training to orient our new university supervisors at Texas A&M University. We're glad you are joining us. I am Sandy Johnson. I supervise clinical teachers who are placed in the school districts surrounding Bryan-College Station. This online orientation is divided into 5 sessions based on specific topics. This first slide is the agenda page for all the sessions. Each session tends to be about 15 minutes or less in length. You must complete all 5 sessions, but not at one setting. Dividing this training into smaller blocks of time was our attempt to allow you flexibility so that you could view the sessions at times that would be more convenient for you. Also, it allows you to revisit appropriate ones when a specific question arises. Let's look at the next slide, which addresses the format of the sessions. During the PowerPoint presentations for the 5 sessions, I will reference specific pages from the Clinical Teaching Handbook and other miscellaneous handouts not found in the handbook. All of the pages needed for the 5 audio sessions are listed on the link entitled TLAC Supervisor Training. Prior to starting each session, I recommend that you have hard copies ready for all the pages that will be referenced during that session. These hard copy visuals will add clarity as you listen to the verbal explanations. Also, you'll be able to highlight key points on your hard copies. Before proceeding, if you have not already done so, it would be an excellent time to pause and make copies of the handouts listed for each of the 5 sessions on the TLAC Supervisor Training page. So pause here if you need to get these materials ready. Let's look at the next slide. It is about the role of the university supervisor. First of all, we are liaisons between the university and the public schools. It is our job to keep that relationship as positive as possible. We also work hard to keep the relationship between the clinical teachers and their cooperating teachers as positive as possible. In addition to being liaisons, we also make sure that our clinical teachers are completing all of their responsibilities in an excellent and timely manner. I think that you will enjoy watching our clinical teachers blossom into awesome teachers. I will not say that we do not have unique or challenging situations crop up, because we do, but those situations are the exception rather than the rule. This online orientation will focus on the nuts and bolts or mechanics of supervising our Aggie clinical teachers. Keep the following in mind. First, I will try to be as clear and concise as possible in each of the audio sessions. Secondly, I am well aware that all of this information will be overwhelming. Next, keep in mind this first session starts with general information. The specifics come in the following sessions. Lastly, I confess that my slant tends to be elementary, so at times those of you in the upper grades may need to translate or transpose some of this information into the secondary environment. Looking at the next slide, you will see the handout entitled Overview of the Clinical Teaching Semester at Texas A&M. Notice that it begins with a summary of general information and responsibilities, and towards the bottom provides a list of tips for getting started. Now back to the top. This handout is a summary of general information or responsibilities. As I mentioned, the specifics will come in the audio sessions that follow this one. The first item or bullet is about the official first day. In the fall, clinical teachers begin the day that students in your school districts report for their first day. Note for spring, clinical teachers begin the day that students return after their winter break. There are now 65 days in our clinical teaching semester. Staff development days attended by a clinical teacher prior to the official start date do not count. However, staff development days after the official start date do count. Holidays do not count. More than 65 days can be required if needed. It's rare, though, except for the days of absence that are tacked on after the last official day. And let me stress right here that all days of absence must be made up. Our clinical teachers are expected to be prompt, to record days of absence online, keep the attendance log updated with daily arrival and departure times, make up all days of absence, maintain a positive and professional attitude, prepare appropriate lesson plans, follow through with effective instructional and classroom management strategies, etc. There are 4 total weeks of full responsibility. 2 weeks occur during the middle and 2 weeks towards the end of the semester. Be flexible with the when. Let cooperating teachers determine this. You will conduct a minimum of 2 seminars. These are mandatory. Use the Clinical Teaching Handbook as your guide for the orientation seminar. The second seminar topic is your choice. A wrap-up seminar towards the end of the semester is optional. You will formally observe each clinical teacher 4 times if all is going well, more if needed. Conduct 2 formal observations before and 2 after the midpoint conference. Each formal observation is a minimum of 45 minutes in length. Before an observation, you will conduct a pre-conference. During an observation, you will critique in writing the entire lesson using the formal observation form. You will spot check all lesson plans and the attendance log. Read written feedback from the cooperating teacher and read all of the clinical teacher's journal entries. After each observation, you will conduct an interactive follow-up conference focusing on self-evaluation by the clinical teacher. Then, using the link provided by the Office of Field Experiences, you will complete the online version of the formal observation form. You will complete this within 48 hours of each formal observation and follow-up conference. A 3-way midpoint conference occurs during week 6 or 7. Prior to this midpoint conference, you will complete 2 formal observations, both submitted online, while the cooperating teacher will complete at least 1. There is no online submission required for the cooperating teacher. You and the cooperating teacher will each complete a hard copy of the midpoint final evaluation form. Using the hard copies of this evaluation form, you and the cooperating teacher together will conduct a conference with the clinical teacher discussing his or her strengths and areas of refinement. A 3-way final conference occurs during week 12 or 13. Follow the same procedure that was described for the midpoint conference. An option is to also provide each clinical teacher with a letter of recommendation. The last bullet is about reference forms. Be prepared to fill out reference forms sent to you by school districts with whom your clinical teachers apply, and these can mount up. Now, my suggestions for getting started are to read the Clinical Teaching Handbook. Definitely do this. Read the entire handbook, cover to cover. Then prepare a folder of materials for each cooperating teacher, and this folder will be discussed in the last audio session. That would be number 5. Next, prepare a handout or memo for each principal. We will look at a sample memo after this slide. Deliver the cooperating teacher folders and each principal's memo prior to the arrival of the clinical teachers. Place a folder in each teacher's school mailbox well in advance of his or her start date for the semester. You will orient cooperating teachers, so clarify on the cover page of the cooperating teacher folder how you intend to orient your cooperating teachers. This could be a face-to-face or telephone conference depending on what is desired by the cooperating teacher. You will orient clinical teachers, so communicate a day and time to your clinical teachers for this orientation seminar. Use the Clinical Teaching Handbook to guide your orientation seminar. Remember that all the information that I just gave you is general information. There will be more specifics on these topics in the remaining audio sessions. My contact information is at the bottom of this page should you need to call or email me. Let's look at the last slide in this session. It is the principal memo that was just mentioned. Keep in mind, this is just an example. You are to add to it, delete from it, in other words, put your own personal spin on it. When creating this document, as well as others that will be shared in future sessions, you may choose to model yours after mine. Be sure, though, to include your name and contact information, not mine. This concludes Session 1.